Recently, a 68-year-old man died of a sudden heart attack on a cheap mattress in a roadside motel. To his community, he was a pillar, a devoted husband for 40 years, a proud grandfather, but he had a shadow. He had a hidden cell phone. He had cash withdrawals his wife never knew about. He awoke as a hypocrite, unmasked for marital betrayal. Stay with us for this testimony, for it will shatter the illusion of your victimless sins. Listen.
I celebrated my 40th wedding anniversary just 1 month before I died. We rented a hall. My daughters gave speeches about what a wonderful father I was. My grandchildren ran around the tables. I stood up, raised a glass of champagne, and looked my wife Sarah in the eyes. I smiled and told her she was the only woman I had ever loved. 30 days later, I died on a stained mattress in a motel room that cost $40 an hour. I always thought hell was for murderers, for thieves, for men who abandoned their families. I told myself I was a good man. I paid off the mortgage. I funded college accounts. I sat in the third row of our church every Sunday. I thought providing financially gave me the right to a secret. I thought I had earned a release. If you are a man of age listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the adrenaline of the hidden phone. Mine was a cheap burner phone kept in the side pocket of my golf bag. You know the careful cash withdrawals, taking out $100 here, $50 there, so there was no paper trail on the joint credit card. You know the lies. I have a late meeting with the board. I'm going on a weekend fishing trip with the guys. You think you are a genius. You think you are James Bond. You are just a fool digging your own grave with a plastic shovel. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I told Sarah I had a doctor's appointment. Instead, I drove to the edge of town, to a place where the neon sign buzzed and half the letters were burned out. The room smelled like stale cigarette smoke and cheap bleach. I won't tell you the woman's name. It doesn't matter. She wasn't a person to me. She was just an object for my ego, a way to feel young again, a way to feel powerful. I sat on the edge of the bed. I started unbuttoning my shirt, and then the hammer fell. It didn't feel like a medical event. It felt like an execution. A massive, crushing weight slammed into the center of my chest. It was so violent it knocked me off the bed. I hit the dirty carpet hard, gasping like a fish out of water. The pain radiated down my left arm and up into my jaw. My vision started to tunnel. The woman screamed. She didn't try to help me. She didn't call 911. She knew she couldn't be found there. I watched her grab her purse, open the door, and run. She left me to die alone, half naked, on a floor covered in filth. As my lungs stopped working and the darkness closed in, do you know what my final thought was? I didn't pray to God. I didn't ask for forgiveness. My final thought was absolute paralyzing panic about my reputation. Sarah is going to find out, the church is going to find out, the police are going to find my body here. I died caring more about my image than my soul. The darkness swallowed me. The motel room faded away, but the panic didn't stop. It amplified. I didn't drift into a peaceful sleep. I didn't float toward a warm light. I was snatched. It felt like being grabbed by the collar and thrown down an endless elevator shaft. The wind was freezing cold, smelling of ozone and copper. I fell hard, shattering the ground beneath me with a deafening crash. Crack! I didn't land on dirt. I didn't land on fire. I landed on glass. I stood up, trembling. I was completely naked. The expensive suit, the gold watch, the careful haircut, everything was gone. I was in a vast, endless hall. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, everything was made of mirrors. Millions of mirrors. But they weren't normal mirrors. They were broken, fractured, shards of glass jutting out at impossible angles. And in every single shard I saw a reflection. But it wasn't just my face. "Welcome to the Hall of the Divided Man," a voice echoed. It didn't come from one place. It bounced off the glass surrounding me. It was a voice of pure, dripping mockery. I looked at the mirror closest to me. In the left half of the shard, I saw myself standing in the church, singing a hymn, looking pious and holy. In the right half of the same shard, I saw myself in the motel, hands wandering, eyes full of dirty lust. The two images were fused together, side by side, the hypocrite and the pervert. "You spent 40 years splitting yourself in half," the voice laughed. "You wanted to live two lives? Then you will suffer in two places. Suddenly the mirrors began to move. They weren't just reflecting light, they were moving in to cut. The mirrors didn't just reflect the light, they reflected my hypocrisy, bouncing it back and forth until the glare was blinding. Then the shards began to move. The walls of the hall were closing in. The sound of glass grinding against glass was deafening, like a million fingernails on a chalkboard. A figure stepped out from behind a massive, cracked pillar of mirrors. It was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that looked exactly like the one I wore to church, but its face was entirely made of shattered glass. It had no eyes, no mouth, just jagged edges, reflecting my own terrified face back at me. "You were a man divided," the glass demon hissed. Its voice sounded like crunching footsteps on broken bottles. "You gave half of your heart to your family and half to your lust. You lived 2 lives, patriarch, so here you will suffer 2 deaths." Simultaneously, before I could run, the glass floor beneath me erupted. Thick, jagged chains made of mirror shards shot up. They wrapped around my left wrist and my left ankle. Then another set of chains shot down from the ceiling, wrapping around my right wrist and right ankle. I was suspended in the air, spread eagle like a specimen on a board. The demon raised his hand. "The left side belongs to the husband," it mocked. "The right side belongs to the adulterer. Let them go their separate ways." The chains began to pull, slowly, in opposite directions. The pain was catastrophic. I felt my joints popping out of their sockets, my shoulders dislocated with a wet, sickening crunch. But the chains didn't stop pulling. They were literally tearing me down the middle. I felt the skin of my chest stretching, ripping. I felt my organs being pulled in 2 directions. I screamed until my throat bled, begging for it to snap, begging to just be ripped in half so the tension would stop. But in hell, the tension never stops. You never get the release of the breaking point. You are held in the exact microsecond of maximum agony, forever. I hung there, suspended in my own tearing flesh, existing in 2 states of torture. And then, just like the devil always does, he changed the game. The pulling stopped. The physical pain dialed back just enough for me to catch my breath. Because the demon had a different kind of knife to use. A massive mirror directly in front of me cleared. The smoke and the red glare vanished. It became a window to earth. It was present day, maybe a week after my funeral. I saw my house, my beautiful 4-bedroom suburban home that I paid off 5 years ago. I saw my garage, and I saw Sarah, my wife, my beautiful, sweet Sarah. She was wearing a loose sweater, looking so small and frail. She had aged 10 years in a single week. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying over me, the man who betrayed her. She was sorting through my things, donating my old clothes. She walked over to my golf clubs in the corner. My heart, the spiritual heart that was currently being stretched in my chest, stopped. "No," I whispered. "No, Sarah, don't touch the bag. Please, God, make her stop." But God doesn't cover up your crimes when you die in them. Sarah unzipped the side pocket of the golf bag to check for loose tees. She pulled out the burner phone. I watched her face. At first she was just confused. She pressed the power button. The battery was dead. She walked into the kitchen, found a charger, and plugged it in. I was hanging from chains of glass in the pit of hell, forced to watch the exact moment my 40-year legacy was assassinated by my own hand. The phone lit up. There was no passcode. I was too arrogant to think I needed one. I thought I was invincible. The screen flooded with notifications, text messages, calendar alerts. Sarah put on her reading glasses. She opened the messages. I couldn't hear the sound in the kitchen, but I didn't need to. I saw her hand start to shake. She scrolled. And she scrolled. She read the messages I sent to the woman from the motel. She read the messages to the others before her, the dirty pictures, the hotel addresses, the cash app transfers. She read the message I sent on the day of our 40th anniversary, telling the other woman, "I have to play the good husband tonight, but I'll see you Tuesday." Sarah didn't scream. She didn't throw the phone. Her reaction was so much worse. She dropped to her knees on the linoleum floor. She curled into a ball, clutching her stomach, rocking back and forth. She was hyperventilating, gasping for air, her face twisted in a mask of absolute world-shattering horror. She wasn't just grieving a dead husband anymore. She was grieving a murdered reality. Everything she believed about her life, her marriage, her safety, it was a lie, and she was entirely alone with it. "Look at her," the glass demon whispered in my ear, its breath cutting my cheek. "Look at what your harmless secret did. You didn't just cheat on her. You retroactively destroyed every happy memory she ever had, every vacation, every Christmas, every kiss. She will now look back and wonder if you were thinking of someone else." I sobbed. I pulled against the chains, ignoring the tearing of my flesh, desperate to jump through the mirror. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I loved you. It meant nothing. It was just flesh," I screamed. "It meant nothing." The demon laughed. "You traded her peace of mind for something that meant nothing? That makes you even more pathetic." The mirror shifted. It showed my two daughters sitting at Sarah's dining table later that evening. Sarah had shown them the phone. I watched my eldest daughter, the one who called me her hero at my anniversary party, stand up and sweep her arm across the table, knocking my framed photograph to the floor. The glass shattered. She looked at my picture on the floor with pure, unadulterated disgust. I was erased. My money didn't matter. My church attendance didn't matter. To my family, I was no longer a patriarch. I was a parasite. I was a joke. A dirty old man who died with a whore on a cheap mattress, leaving his family to clean up the humiliating mess. They wouldn't visit my grave with flowers. They wouldn't speak my name to my grandchildren. I was dead, and my memory was rotting on earth faster than my body was rotting in the casket. If you are a married man listening to this, look at me. Do you think you are too smart to be caught? Do you think clearing your browser history saves you? Do you think paying in cash makes you invisible? The grave does not hide your bank statements. Death does not lock your secret phone. When your heart gives out, and it will give out maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, your secrets will stay behind. They will detonate like a bomb in the middle of your living room. Your wife will find out. Your children will find out. The church will find out. The shame you are trying to avoid by lying today will be multiplied by 1,000 and poured over your family's heads tomorrow. The chains attached to my limbs suddenly jerked again. The mirror showing my family shattered into dust. The glass demon stepped in front of me, holding a massive, jagged shard of glass, like a butcher's knife. "The show on earth is over," the demon said. "Your legacy is dead. Now, it's time to deal with the eternity of your choices. Let's see what happens when the two halves of a hypocrite finally break." The demon swung the glass blade toward my stomach. The floor opened up, and the hall of mirrors turned into a funnel of falling glass. I was pulled down deeper, into the chamber of the other women. I fell through the storm of broken glass, my body already stretched to the point of snapping. The shards sliced my skin into ribbons, but I didn't bleed. I just burned. I hit the ground, and the chains vanished. I collapsed, gasping, waiting for the floor to open again, but it didn't. The environment shifted. I was no longer in the grand, terrifying hall of mirrors. I was in a room that looked exactly like a cheap motel. The same stained carpet, the same flickering neon light outside the window, the same smell of stale smoke and bleach that I had died breathing. But the room wasn't empty. Sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, was a woman. She had long, dark hair, just like the woman I was with when my heart stopped. "Hello?" I croaked, my throat raw. Are you real?" She didn't turn around. She slowly reached up and began to brush her hair. The motion was mechanical, repetitive. "Real?" she echoed. Her voice didn't sound like a woman. It sounded like a recording played through a broken speaker. "You didn't want me to be real, patriarch. You didn't want a person. You wanted a body. You wanted a distraction." She turned her head. My blood ran cold. She had no face. Where her eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was nothing but a blank, fleshy canvas, smooth as a mannequin. She stood up. The clothes she wore dissolved into shadows. Her body wasn't human flesh. It was made of pages, glossy magazine pages, thousands of them, taped together, overlapping with pictures of models, actresses, and strangers I had stared at online for decades. She was the physical manifestation of my lust. A patchwork monster built from every dirty image I had ever consumed. "You consumed us," the faceless woman whispered, her voice coming from the walls of the motel room. "You took our images, our bodies, and you threw away our souls. We were just pixels to you. We were just flesh. She walked toward me. I backed away until I hit the door. It was locked. There was no handle. "Now," she said, reaching out with hands made of paper cuts. "It's our turn to consume you." She grabbed my arm. Her touch wasn't hot. It was freezing cold, colder than dry ice. The moment she touched me, the skin on my arm began to peel away, turning into ash and floating into the air. I screamed, trying to shake her off, but her grip was like a vice. She opened her chest, and a mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth, not teeth of bone, but teeth made of shattered glass, snapped at me. "You wanted to be one flesh," she hissed. "Here is your bride." She lunged, burying her glass teeth into my shoulder. The pain was blinding, white-hot agony. She was literally eating me alive, piece by piece, just as my lust had eaten away at my soul, my marriage, and my dignity on earth. Suddenly, the motel door exploded inward. The faceless woman vanished, leaving my shoulder a bloody, mangled mess. A new demon stepped into the room. This one wasn't made of glass or paper. It looked like an accountant. It wore a sharp grey suit, carried a leather briefcase, and had a face that was perfectly symmetrical, terrifyingly calm. Its eyes were pure, glowing red numbers. "Mr. Patriarch," the accountant demon said smoothly, "I have your invoice." It opened the briefcase. It didn't pull out a piece of paper. It pulled out a long, heavy iron chain. Every link on the chain was stamped with a number. "Let's do some math," the demon said, dropping the chain on the dirty carpet. "You were a successful businessman. You liked numbers. You liked calculating your return on investment." It picked up the first link of the chain. 4,380 hours, the demon read. I stared at it. "What does that mean?" "That is the total amount of time you spent in your life looking at pornography," the accountant explained, its voice devoid of emotion. 10 minutes here, an hour there, late nights in the office, early mornings before your wife woke up. It adds up, Patriarch. 4,380 hours. It picked up another link. $215,000. "No," I stammered. "That's impossible." "We don't make mistakes." The demon smiled, a thin, cruel line. "That is the money you spent. Hotel rooms, dinners, gifts for mistresses, cash withdrawals, subscriptions, premium access, $215,000 that you stole from your family's future to feed your addiction." The demon wrapped the chain around its hands. "You thought your sins were cheap because you paid in cash, but the true cost was your soul, and the interest rate in hell is exponential." The accountant demon walked toward me and wrapped the heavy iron chain around my neck. It was incredibly heavy. It felt like a car engine had been strapped to my throat. "This is the weight of your wasted life," it whispered. "Every minute you stole from your wife, every dollar you hid from your children. You will carry it forever." The demon pulled the chain tight, choking me. I dropped to my knees, gagging, clawing at my neck. "You wanted a second life, Patriarch?" The demon mocked, pulling me across the floor like a dog. "This is it, the life of a slave to your own appetites." It dragged me out of the motel room and into a hallway. The hallway was lined with doors, millions of doors, and behind every door I heard the sound of moaning. Not the sound of pleasure, but the sound of pure, unadulterated misery, the sound of men weeping, the sound of chains rattling, the sound of tearing flesh. "This is the wing of the adulterers," the accountant demon announced. "The men who thought they were clever, the men who thought they could outsmart God." I saw a man in a doorway to my left. He was older than me. He was strapped to a bed, his eyes forced open with metal hooks. He was being forced to watch a loop of his wife crying at his grave over and over and over again, while demons poured boiling oil into his ears. "Make it stop!" he screamed. "Just let me sleep! No rest for the wicked!" A demon beside him laughed. I saw another man crawling on the floor, his hands cut off. He was trying to pick up burning hot coins with his stumps, crying as the metal seared his flesh. "I just wanted to feel alive," he sobbed. They all looked like me. They were businessmen, deacons, grandfathers. They were the men in the suits on Sunday, the men who paid their taxes. They were the good guys, but hell is full of good guys who thought their secret sins were invisible. The accountant demon stopped in front of a door marked with my name. It kicked the door open. Inside, the room was empty. Just 4 concrete walls and a single burning light bulb swinging from the ceiling. And in the center of the room, a massive iron bed frame covered in sharp spikes. Your permanent residence, Patriarch, the demon smiled. You liked hotel beds so much, we reserved this one just for you, for eternity. The demon grabbed the chain around my neck and threw me into the room. I hit the concrete floor hard. The door slammed shut behind me, plunging me into absolute, suffocating darkness. I lay on the concrete floor of the dark room, the iron chain around my neck feeling heavier by the second. The single, swinging light bulb flickered, casting long, sharp shadows across the room. In the center was the bed. It wasn't just a frame with spikes. The spikes were moving. They were jagged, rusted, and hot. A voice spoke from the corner of the room. It wasn't the glass demon or the accountant. It was a voice that sounded like my own, but deeper, distorted by centuries of regret. "Get up, Patriarch," it commanded. I squinted into the gloom. A figure emerged. It was an older man, his face a mask of sorrow. He wore a tattered bathrobe, the kind I used to wear on Sunday mornings before church. He looked like a mirror image of me, but older, withered, and entirely broken. "Who are you?" I gasped, trying to pull the chain off my throat. The figure stepped into the flickering light. "I am you," he said, his voice hollow. "I am you after 1,000 years in this room. I am the man who chose the motel over his wife. I'm the man who chose a screen over his soul." He walked toward the iron bed and pointed a trembling finger at the spikes. "This is what we earned," he whispered. "We thought we were getting away with it. We thought the thrill was worth the risk. We thought we could just repent when we got old." He looked me in the eyes, his own eyes filled with a terror that I cannot describe. It was the terror of a man who knows there is no escape. But we didn't get old enough, did we? We died with the phone in our pocket. We died with the lie on our lips. The older version of myself grabbed me by the shoulders. His grip was surprisingly strong, his fingers digging into my flesh like claws. "You have to get on the bed," he cried, tears of blood streaming down his face. "They are coming. If you don't get on the bed, they will make it worse. They always make it worse." I pulled away, horrified. "No, I'm not getting on that thing. I want out." I ran to the heavy iron door and pounded my fists against it. "Let me out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Sarah, I'm sorry." The door didn't budge. The only answer was the sound of laughter echoing from the hallway. "They don't care about your apologies," the older me sobbed, dropping to his knees. "They only care about your pain. Get on the bed, Patriarch. It's time to pay." The spikes on the bed began to glow a dull, angry red. The heat radiated across the small room, singeing my skin. The door slowly creaked open. The glass demon and the accountant demon stepped inside, followed by a horde of smaller, insect-like creatures that chattered like broken glass. "Time for bed," the glass demon sneered. "Your balance is due," the accountant added. The insect creatures swarmed me, grabbing my arms and legs. I fought, I kicked, I screamed, but they were too strong. They lifted me off the floor and carried me toward the glowing, spiked bed. I closed my eyes, bracing for the agony. I knew that once I touched those spikes, my existence would be nothing but an endless scream. I prayed. Not a rehearsed church prayer, a raw, desperate final cry for mercy from a man who deserved none. "God, please, I am a liar. I am a hypocrite. Save me." It wasn't an eloquent prayer. It was the prayer of a drowning man. And God, in his incomprehensible mercy, heard it. Just as my back was about to hit the burning spikes, the room exploded, not with fire, but with light. A brilliant, blinding, pure white light shattered the darkness. The demons shrieked, covering their eyes and scrambling away. The older version of myself dissolved into dust. A force, powerful and instantaneous, grabbed me by the chest. It wasn't the slow, terrifying fall of earlier. It was a violent, upward yank. I was pulled out of the room, through the ceiling of hell, past the hall of mirrors, past the motel room of the faceless woman. I flew upward at a speed that felt like it would tear my soul apart. Wham! I hit my body like a freight train hitting a brick wall. The pain was instantaneous and overwhelming. My chest felt like it had been crushed by a boulder. My lungs burned as they desperately sucked in air. I opened my eyes. The dim, flickering light of the motel room was gone. I was staring at a bright, sterile ceiling. The smell of bleach and smoke was replaced by the sharp, chemical scent of antiseptic. I heard the rhythmic beep, beep, beep of a heart monitor. I was in a hospital. I tried to sit up, but a nurse rushed over and gently pushed me back down. "Whoa, take it easy, sir. You're in the ICU." I couldn't speak. I just stared at her, tears streaming down my face. "You had a massive heart attack," she explained softly. "You were clinically dead for nearly 4 minutes before the paramedics revived you. It's a miracle you're alive." 4 minutes. I had lived an eternity of terror in 4 minutes. Then the door opened. It was Sarah. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying, but she rushed to my bedside and grabbed my hand. "Oh, thank God," she wept, burying her face in my shoulder. "I thought I lost you." I looked at her, then down at my hand. The gold wedding ring was still there, and I knew, with absolute certainty, what I had to do. I didn't have to wait for her to find the phone in the golf bag. I didn't have to wait for my legacy to be destroyed after I was gone. I squeezed her hand. My voice was a weak croak, but the words were the most important I had ever spoken. "Sarah, I need to tell you everything. I have been living a lie." It was the hardest conversation of my life, harder than the heart attack. I told her about the burner phone. I told her about the cash withdrawals. I told her about the motel room where I had almost died. I watched her face crumple in pain, disbelief, and devastation. I watched the 40 years of trust we had built shatter into a million pieces, just like the mirrors in hell. She didn't stay. She left the hospital room crying, and I didn't blame her. I'd broken her heart, and I couldn't fix it with apologies. But as she walked out, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. I felt clean. The burden of the lie was gone. The heavy iron chain of my double life was lifted. It's been 6 months since that day. Sarah and I are separated. I live in a small apartment. I don't go to the country club anymore. I resigned from my position as deacon at the church. I lost my reputation. I lost my comfortable life, but I gained my soul. I am recording this testimony for you. The man listening to this right now. I know who is listening to this right now. You are the good guy, the patriarch. The man with the gold ring on his finger and the secret phone in his golf bag. You think you are protecting your family by hiding your sin. You think you are managing it, but listen to me. You are not managing anything. You are feeding a monster that will eventually consume you. The devil is standing right behind you, holding a mirror, just waiting for your heart to stop so he can show you the terrifying truth of who you really are. Do not wait for the heart attack. Do not wait for your wife to find the phone after you are dead. This is your warning. This is your final exit. You need to burn the bridge today. Whatever it is, the burner phone, the secret bank account, the hidden browser history, destroy it. Do not wait until tomorrow, because tomorrow is not promised. That cheap motel room is waiting. And then you must confess to your wife. It will be the hardest thing you ever do. It will break her heart. But it is infinitely better to break her heart with the truth now than to completely destroy her reality from the grave later. Give her the respect of the truth. Stop playing the hypocrite. Resign from your positions of power if you have to. Step down from the pulpit, the board, the committee. You cannot serve God while you are serving your lust. The hall of mirrors is waiting for the divided man. If this testimony shook you, if you see your own reflection in my mistakes, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. You need a daily reminder of what is truly at stake. The world will tell you that your secret is normal, that you just need to be careful. You need a voice that tells you to wake up. We are building a community here of men who refuse to live the double life anymore. Join us. Stay vigilant. Stay in the light. I am the patriarch who died in a motel room. I'm the man who saw the shattered mirrors. I chose the pain of confession on earth over the eternal agony of exposure in hell. Choose wisely, because when the mirror shatters, there is nowhere left to hide.